Hi, I'm Brian. Let's do a car video. The star of today's video is a 2005 JCW Mini Cooper. That's a John Cooper Works Supercharged Edition Mini Cooper. And it has two, count them, two major symptoms. The number one symptom is that it squeaks like crazy. It's driving the owner crazy. This car has a belt squeak that's been a little bit on the persistent side. There was issues with the tensioner, some pretty obvious failures in both the hydraulic dampener on it and the pulley itself. So I've replaced those, but the squeak persists. And we lost a belt recently as well. And the second thing that I noticed upon driving this is it has a lot less power than it usually does. Almost as bad as a pedal bike. So between the squeak and the power loss, what could it be? Let's find out. You can see there's a really rapid vibration in the harmonic balancer side to side. And that's causing the wear issue when it goes from the harmonic balancer up to the tensioner. You can see it wobbles. You can see the reveal right here. It's variable. You can see the harmonic balancer's got a fair amount of wobble to it. So just like you have gym shoes that squeak on the floor, the rubber squeaks on the pulley because it's coming to the pulley side to side like that. So looking at the vehicle right off the bat, you can see that there's a whole bunch of vibration on the harmonic balancer. It's kicking side to side. When you have a belt squeak, you want to check your belt alignment. And so when you look straight down it, you look at the way that the belt goes from one pulley to the next, and you should see that the belt lays in a flat line with itself. As you can see here, that's not the case. This harmonic balancer's got a bunch of play in it. It looks like it's our culprit. So that explains the squeak, but what about the power loss? How come there's so much power loss here? Sometimes it's easy to lose track of what you're doing because there's so many different things. So it's best to find whatever's wrong with the car that could be a contributing factor, prove that that part's bad, and then continue on with the repair on that, and then go back to the second symptom. Sometimes you get a 2-for-1, sometimes you don't. Here's my homemade belt detensioning tool for Mini Cooper because I'm impatient. I don't want to wait to order one. I got the belt off, and there seems to be some further evidence to support my theory that the harmonic balancer is bad. So here's what you need to know about replacing one of these harmonic balancers when it's got the press fit. If it's got the key fit, you can wiggle it, work it, and it's just going to slide off. But if it's press fit like this one is, you're going to have to use a puller to get it off. So when you pull it as you saw on those bolt holes on the harmonic balancer. You pull by those and you push on the end of the crankshaft using your bolt puller kit. So you've got a bolt that pushes on the crankshaft and it's in a bracket, and the bracket's secured to the harmonic balancer. And as you tighten the bolt in there, it pushes on the harmonic on the crankshaft tip and pulls the puller. Peter Piper picked a pick of pickled peppers. Pulls the puller that's bolted to the crankshaft pulley. So what would happen if you just took a big hammer, you get your BFH, your Lucy, or whatever you call yours, and you just bash the harmonic balancer off? For one, you can't get to it because there's a timing chain cover in the way. Or what if you use a pry bar? If you use a pry bar, you can damage the timing cover, or you can damage the bearing supports, your main bearing caps, what they bolt onto. Basically that cradle, the crankshaft cradle that is aluminum or cast iron that interfaces with all the main bearings, you damage those because you're pulling on the whole thing. And so that's why you push on the crankshaft and pull on the harmonic balancer. So I got my puller in place. It's 3 M6 bolts. I've got the bolt in there for it to push against, and it's in there probably 4 or 5 threads. I'll back it off until it bottoms out and then remove the bolt, and the pulley should come with it. While you're not supposed to use an impact, it's hard to resist. It just works so well. Didn't take much. So I've got this backed out pretty far. Here's the bolt. You can see it's come a long way, but it's still just stuck. I had to take the bolt out of it, and I had to run an M8 in there. The bolt's an M12, so it's not making contact. We'll see if we can get this to finish it off. I also put a lot of WD-40 back there. I have a feeling this is going to work. So, yeah. Here's my jig. There's the rubber, what's left of it. It's got a little hollow bolt that goes through there. But I just use this inside of the puller to push against the crankshaft, because you have to push against the crankshaft when you're pulling these off. This thing's not going to be fun to put on, I can tell you that. So here's the ring. It was just captive back there. That's why the belt's squeaking. I don't think any number of new belts or other pulleys is going to make a difference. And it didn't look that bad when it was on the car, but it was. So this is how the harmonic balancer sits in the vehicle. As the belt comes off of this, it wraps around the tensioner, the supercharger, drops down to the idler, comes up for an alternator, and then goes around the AC and then back. So that's the belt routing that we have right here. Your supercharger has a lot of demand on it, and as this rotates, the middle part was rotating with the crankshaft, but I'm able to hold the belt portion of it still. Now, it was rotating some, but not much. You can see that this is easily rotated. You can see how polished this is. So there was a lot of squeak coming from just that, the rubber residue that remained on the ring. The ring rubber residue remaining. There you go, Peter Piper rush kind of stuff. But that's what was happening. So the supercharger wasn't getting the torque and the energy and stuff that it needed. To see that the supercharger has so much wrap, it's got a lot of drag on it. The supercharger just basically wasn't getting enough torque pull from the belt, and that's where our power loss came from. Now when you go to put it back on again, the same things apply, and it's even more tempting. Everybody wants to just take the hammer and just bash, bash, bash the harmonic balancer back on, but every time you hit it with a hammer, all of those supports for your main bearings are getting jacked. If you have a thrust bearing or a thrust washer or something like that to the effect to hold the crankshaft from moving front and back, it's going to bash those with the hammer too. You think you just put this on there and you just put the factory bolt in there and you're good to go. You need a special bolt and nut, or a longer bolt and then pull it out, and then a shorter bolt to follow it up. This one doesn't even begin to get threads. You get a bolt that's the same, in this case it's an M12 by 1.75. The factory bolt is 3 inches. And when you put this on the end of the crankshaft, it stops, and then you go to put the bolt in to help tighten it, to draw it back on, and it just doesn't get any threads at all. So you can't even start it with a hammer, so what are you gonna do? I'll tell you what to do. You get a bolt that's the same size, the same thread pitch, but a little bit longer. How much longer? Well, this pass-through on the harmonic balancer is 1 inch, and this on the factory bolt, the shaft length, is 3 inches. 3 plus 1 is 4. So you get a new bolt that's 4 inches, which works out to be about 100 millimeters, or 90 millimeter will even work. And you get it started, and you get this to go on. Now, this does all kinds of wonderful things for you. For one, you're not bashing everything as you go. 2, it makes it go on really easy because it's straight. If it's perfectly straight and it's pulling right where it counts, it's going to go on that much better. If it gets crooked, you know, like with a hammer or something, it's just not going to work. So that's the way you do it, and that's why you do it the way you do it. Word. I got some of these M12 by 1.75s. I'll see if I can find a link in the description. So what I've done is I just found a couple of washers that are hanging around. These are probably from some old shocks or something that I hung on to. And then I've got a nut here. This will make up for 2 in-between size bolts to pull that on. And then we'll go with the final bolt. So the first one we get in, you can see how that gets just some threads. What size is that? It's probably 18 if it came from the hardware store. Yep. Tell it's 18 millimeter socket because it's got a really crazy looking tiger spiral stripe on it. So I've got a little bit of WD-40 or something to help nurse it. And ultimately what's going to happen is I'm going to run out of threads in the crank, at which time we'll stop. I'm going to take a peek underneath and just see where I'm at. Looks like I'm actually getting pretty close. I might get this in one go. Having more threads is better than less threads. Look at the polish that it did to it. So now we'll take the old bolt and see if we can get some stick out on that. So it looks like just that one in between. Sometimes you got to jig it and work it because they'll only have just a short amount of thread on the crank, but you have a long way to take these on. So I think what I'm going to do is do the old bolt in and out, and then do the final with the new bolt. Watch your winner. think that's it. It's hard to tell because the old one, yep, that's it. We're done. Old bolt goes out and the new fresh bolt goes in. And by the way, on a Mini Cooper like this, you want to replace the bolt. And the reason why is the Loctite that they use, and they do things kind of goofy. So just get a new bolt, trust me. So to pull the old one off, I used a $10 Harbor Freight puller, and I also used some WD-40 and 3 M6 bolts that I salvaged out of a scrap transmission. And we're in. Watch your ear as you stick your head in and out of here, because this is perfect for snagging in here. Just did. Ouch. Okay, so then we'll take homemade belt tool, wherever the heck it is. Oh, it's still in there. And we'll get this belt strung up. This is when I'm saying in my head, please don't slip, please don't slip. This is not gonna be a knuckle breaker. Homemade tools have the fastest shipping time of any tool. And you know, it's hard because you don't want to buy the factory tool and spend like 80 or 100 bucks or something on it. You're only going to use it once or twice. You never know how many you're going to get. So it's a safe bet to just make your, look at that. I had to keep angling it because I kept running out of space. There's the other side of it. It's like some kind of boomerang snake. Ah! Wicked tools, man. All right, so I'm looking at my pulleys. Everything's in order. It's supposed to be it's funny as you slap this in there. I love how they do a little indentation so it looks like there's a headlight there. It's so cute. Funny, you just put that on and close the hood and it looks like there's a car again. You open it up and have this missing. It's just like, oh dear, sweet, looks tragic. And the rest are all push pins with screw centers at $3–4 a pop. You can just shove these in, the threads will allow it. The soft plastic material doesn't seem to mind, but then it's a lot harder for the next guy. So if you screw them in, you're a lot better off in the long run. I probably will see this car again and again and again, so it's in my best interest to take a little bit more time and screw them in. Okay, so the one that I can't find is the one that goes to the bottom right here. When you consider these just spin right in there. But when they get to the end, they just spin, so when you hit them with a drill, it goes pretty quick. Well, this is all coming together pretty good. Time to throw some exhaust out the back and see what it does. I'm tempted to just put a wheel on it. Pretty confident. Test it, go to the bottom one first. Wall it and watch. Because we only got 4 of them in the cross. Alright, I don't hear any squeaking. Let's get in there. We're looking in at the belt. It's not wiggling at all. Awesome. Thanks for watching. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. To subscribe, it doesn't cost you a thing. You click this and it'll show every time I make a cool video. Remember the cool video I did here that you like so much? Whenever I post another one like this, you're going to see it in your feed. That's what a subscription does. Click thumbs up. That'll help other people to find it. And appreciate it if you follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I've got links in the show more down below. I also have links for that bolt puller kit. If you want to pick one of those up, I found you a good deal so you don't even have to worry about it. I took care of it. Let's see how this thing does now. Does it squeak? And do we have our power back? Stay tuned. So let's fire it up and see how it responds now. Seat belts are on. Ooh, it's pulling already. Wow. What a huge difference that makes, just having the supercharger without a belt slipping. Superchargers take quite a bit, you know, especially when you're up in the RPMs. They rob power from the crank. That's a big debate between turbos and superchargers. Is superchargers using power from the crankshaft. Turbochargers use an expanding gas principle from the exhaust coming out. Just like anything else on a car that has rubber, whether it's windshield wiper blades or a radiator hose or a seal, eventually the rubber dries out, cracks, fails.